Imagine sitting down to a comforting bowl of steaming noodles or biting into a soft, fluffy steamed bun, staples in countless households across Asia and beyond. Now picture a simple switch, swapping that meal for a plate of plain rice with vegetables. That small change, according to new research, might carry far more weight than anyone expected. A recent study has turned heads by revealing a surprising twist in the long-standing debate over carbohydrates and heart health. It turns out that what you choose to fill your plate with, whether wheat or rice, could quietly shape your risk of heart disease in ways few ever considered. For decades, dietary advice has swung like a pendulum, first demonizing fats, then sugars, then carbs altogether. But this new work cuts through the noise by zooming in on two of the world's most common staples. The findings suggest that people who rely mostly on wheat-based foods like white noodles, breads, and buns face a significantly higher chance of developing cardiovascular problems compared to those who center their meals around rice. This is not because wheat is inherently evil or rice magically protective. Instead, the difference lies in how these foods behave inside the body, and how they are typically prepared and eaten. White wheat products, especially when highly refined, break down quickly in the digestive system. They surge into the bloodstream as sugar, prompting a rapid spike in insulin. Over time, repeated spikes can wear down the body's ability to manage blood sugar smoothly, leading to insulin resistance, inflammation, and stress on the delicate linings of blood vessels. Rice, particularly when eaten as part of a balanced meal with vegetables, legumes, or lean proteins, tends to cause a gentler rise in blood sugar. Even white rice, often criticized for being refined, appears to act more kindly on the metabolic system when consumed in traditional patterns, steamed, not fried, and paired with fiber-rich sides. But here is where the story gets even more intriguing. The relationship between wheat and heart health is not a straight line. Researchers uncovered a U-shaped pattern. Eating too little wheat was just as risky as eating too much. The sweet spot, where heart disease risk dipped to its lowest, landed right around the amount recommended by national dietary guidelines. This suggests that wheat itself is not the villain. The problem arises when it dominates the diet in processed, low-fiber forms, or when it is nearly absent, possibly signaling an unbalanced or overly restrictive eating pattern. Moderation, it seems, is not just a platitude, it is a biological truth. What truly sets this study apart is its focus on real-world eating habits rather than isolated nutrients. It does not treat carbohydrates as a monolith. Instead, it draws a sharp distinction between refined grains and whole, intact sources of starch. Whole grains like oats, barley, and brown rice, along with starchy vegetables such as sweet potatoes and yams, legumes like red beans and lentils, and deeply colored produce like spinach, pumpkin, and broccoli, all these foods emerged as allies for heart health. They are rich in fiber, antioxidants, and slow-digesting carbohydrates that feed the body steadily without overwhelming it. The message is clear: not all carbs are created equal. A bowl of white noodles drenched in oil and salt is worlds apart from a serving of barley stewed with mushrooms and greens, even if both technically fall under the carbohydrate label. Yet for years, public health messaging has often lumped them together, leading many to fear bread or rice as if they were sugar in disguise. This new research pushes back against that oversimplification. It invites people to look beyond the macronutrient label and consider the whole food, and the whole meal. Cultural context plays a huge role too. In many wheat-heavy diets, especially in urban settings. Meals often come loaded with hidden sodium, saturated fats, and processed meats. Think of instant noodles with flavor packets, fried dumplings, or buns stuffed with fatty fillings. These accompaniments, not the wheat alone, may be driving the increased risk. Meanwhile, rice-based meals in traditional settings are frequently built around vegetables, tofu, fish, or beans, creating a naturally heart-friendly plate. The grain is just one piece of a larger dietary puzzle. This insight flips the script on how we think about healthy eating. Instead of fixating on cutting out entire food groups, the emphasis should shift to upgrading the quality of what we eat. Replace refined grains with whole or minimally processed alternatives. Pair starches with plants, lots of them. Cook with less added fat and salt. These small shifts, repeated day after day, create a pattern that supports not just the heart but the entire metabolic system. Another layer worth exploring is the role of gut health. Fiber-rich carbohydrates feed beneficial gut bacteria, which in turn produce compounds that help regulate blood pressure, reduce inflammation, and improve cholesterol levels. Refined wheat products, stripped of their bran and germ during processing, offer little to these microbes. Over time, a low-fiber diet can starve the gut microbiome, weakening a crucial line of defense against chronic disease. Rice, especially when eaten with legumes or vegetables, contributes more to this microbial ecosystem, even if it is white rice, simply by being part of a more diverse, plant-forward meal. It is also important to recognize that this study reflects patterns observed in a specific population, primarily in China, where rice has been a dietary cornerstone for millennia. The body may have adapted over generations to metabolize rice more efficiently in that context. That does not mean everyone everywhere should abandon wheat. Rather, it underscores that dietary advice must be flexible, culturally sensitive, and rooted in real eating behaviors, not just laboratory data. What this research ultimately champions is mindfulness. Mindful eating means paying attention not just to what is on the plate, but how it got there. Was that noodle dish made from whole grain flour or bleached white flour? Was it boiled or deep fried? Was it served alone or with a rainbow of vegetables? These details matter far more than whether the base ingredient is wheat or rice. A diet built on whole, recognizable foods, prepared simply and eaten with balance, will almost always serve the heart better than one dominated by convenience and processing. The takeaway is not to fear your favorite foods, but to reimagine them. Love noodles? Try whole wheat or buckwheat versions, toss them with garlic, greens, and a splash of sesame oil instead of heavy sauces. Crave rice? Pair it with black beans, roasted vegetables, and a sprinkle of herbs. The goal is not perfection but progression, small, sustainable upgrades that add up over time. In a world flooded with fad diets and conflicting nutrition headlines, this study offers something refreshingly grounded, a call to return to food as it was meant to be eaten, whole, varied, and shared. It reminds us that heart health is not about eliminating joy from the table, but about enriching it with choices that nourish both body and tradition. The path to a healthier heart may not lie in a pill or a superfood, but in the humble bowl of rice or the thoughtfully made bun, eaten with care, balance, and respect for the wisdom of everyday eating. If this deep dive into carbs, heart health, and everyday eating surprised you, or made you rethink your next meal, hit that like button and share it with someone who still thinks all carbs are the enemy. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a science-backed look at the food we eat and how it shapes our lives. Stay curious, eat mindfully, and we'll see you in the next one.